Alright, another retrain of a old classic archetype or series. This time for the Sacred Beast turned into a full-on archetype, and I literally was not expecting this at all. And this is more of a Kagemaru version than the one that Yubel played. So many no armor tile, unfortunately. So let's begin. So first off, let's start off with all the new Sacred Beasts in their pecking order of reveal, starting off with Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames, Sacred Beast of Climactic Fire. Literally the card with its title. And just like the original, it's a level 10 Fire Pyro with 0 attack and defense, and this time all the Sacred Beast has this condition where cannot be normal summon set and must be special summoned through a Sacred Beast card. So you cannot actually summon this through its own means. You have to actually use it through other cards, which is something I don't like, but in the trade-off it does have some improved effects. Like this first one, which is an added effect and it's a hard once per turn. You can reveal this card from your hand to add one Sacred Beast trap from your deck to your hand and then discard a card. Uriah is related to traps, so this does make sense, and I just love that you could just search something, in which this card also gets 1000 attack and defense for each trap in the graveyard, unlike the original, which it has to be continuous trap but following from the anime. In which the third effect is that once per turn quick effect, you can target one spell trap on the field, destroy it, and neither player can activate cards or effect responding to this activation. The original one can only do it during the main phase, so being a quick effect actually makes a huge difference. Although what would be nice if they also add the resurrection effect just like the original Uriah in the anime. But regardless, the effects are definitely improved, although you just have to summon it through other means. And now we go to Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, Sinful Sacred Beast of Catastrophe, which, just like the original, is a level 10 Thunder Light with 4000 attack and defense. Once again, cannot be normal summon or set, and can only be special summoned through a Sacred Beast card. And into the first effect, which is hard once per turn, similar to Uriah, you can reveal this card and then search your deck for a spell and add it to your hand. And then if you do that, you discard a card from your hand. Like always, searching is always nice. With the second ability, which is actually an improvement to the original, because once per turn, if a monster is sent to the graveyard, inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent. The original one requires itself to destroy something by battle. This one just inflicts the 1000 damage regardless of how it's destroyed. Not like it will matter too much since it is still once per turn, but it is technically an improvement. With the third effect, where if this card is destroyed, you can activate this effect where you actually take no damage for the rest of the turn. Once again, another improved effect to the original, as the original one needs to be destroyed in defense. And once again, just another Sacred Beast retrain that is technically better than the original, just without the summoning condition. And finally, to the strongest Sacred Beast of the three, Raviel, Lord of Phantasm, Sacred Beast of the Endless Eternity. And once again, just like the original, level 10 Dark Fiend with 4000 attack and defense. And once again, cannot be normal summon set and must be special summoned by a Sacred Beast card. With the first effect, once again, similar to the others, reveal this card and insert your deck for this time one Sacred Beast monster and add it to your hand, and if you do, discard a card. Yes, Sacred Beast is now a full-on archetype, so you will have a whole deck filled with the name Sacred Beasts. With the second effect being a quick effect, you can tribute 2 other Sacred Beast monsters and destroy all monsters on your opponent's board, and then this card gets 1000 attack for every monster destroyed. Basically, it got the Obelisk influence by actually tributing your 2 monsters to completely destroy everything, and definitely an improvement to the original, just restricted to the Sacred Beast archetype, because the original one only tributed just to get the attack. This one actually does both by destroying your opponent's board and also giving the attack. And the destroying board part is definitely the reference to the attack name card version of it, where it could actually attack your opponent's board. Although one thing I do wish they also reference is definitely the effect to special summon token, because the original one summons a token every time your opponent summons a monster, and this one doesn't have that effect, unfortunately. And then we got a reimagine of the creator, the orchestrator of the Sacred Beasts. Kagemaru had this in his deck but never summoned it, so it's just kind of funny to actually see a remake of this for Sacred Beasts, which is a level 8 Light Thunder with 2300 attack, 3000 defense, and each effect is a hard once per turn. The first one is that you can reveal this card from your hand and then discard a card and then special summon a Sacred Beast that is not level 8 in defense. Basically, summon any Sacred Beast that is not itself. It could even be other archetype support stuff. In which the second effect is that you can discard a card, special summon one Sacred Beast monster that is not a level 8 or the monster that you discarded in defense. Once again, another way just to cheat out your Sacred Beast, although you're going to need these effects for the Sacred Beast stuff anyway. In which the third effect is that you can banish this card from the graveyard to special summon one Sacred Beast monster in defense from the graveyard that is not a level 8. So the thing that bothers me about this card is that you just have to summon those Sacred Beast monsters in defense. But I do love the fact there's 3 ways of special summoning, whether it's from hand, field, or graveyard. And there are ways to send this to the graveyard, especially through Foolish Burial, and even its first effect could actually get it discarded as well. So this is just one of your primary ways to get out your Sacred Beast monsters. And now for a retrain of a token, Mortar of the Sacred Beast. which just like the token is a level 1 Dark Fiend with 0 attack and defense, and each of its effects is hard once per turn. The first one being, is this card's normal special summon, you can put one continuous spell or trap or a field spell that has Sacred Beast in name and put it face up on your field, which is definitely very nice because anything that searches is always very good to run, and the spells and traps for this deck is very essential for you to summon your big boss monsters. In which the second effect is that if you control another Sacred Beast monster, you can special summon 2 copies of itself from your hand, deck, or graveyard. It's just too bad that the effects are going to be hard once per turn, so you can't unfortunately chain these effects, but I do get why. But essentially, this is actually a reference of the spell card that actually summons 3 of these tokens. And also in a way, it sets you up for one of your main cards as well. In which the last effect is that during your opponent's end phase, while this card is in the graveyard, and there's a level 10 Sacred Beast monster in your graveyard, you can put this back to your hand. So it's a nice recycling option for your next turn to basically be reused, especially since you are going to be using all 3 at once, and then basically you bring one back just to bring back the other 2, on top of being able to search even more. Pretty cool card, I must admit. And now we got our new form of a fusion monster that I was literally not expecting. Phantasmal Sacred Beast of Chaos. It's literally all 3 Sacred Beasts together as one card. And no, it's not Archetype, unfortunately, but all 3 into one card is never something I expected, and maybe they might do this for Egyptian gods one day. But anyway, it's a level 10 Dark Fiend with 5000 attack and defense, which is the highest base stat of any monster, by the way, and probably the highest one when it comes to a level 10 monster, which is still technically 3 monsters, requires 3 materials that are level 10 that cannot be normal summon or set, and must either be fusion summon or special summon from the extra deck by sending the above materials you control to the graveyard. And you can only special summon 1 copy of this per turn, no matter what method you use. But anyway, to the main effect, the first one being the first 2 times that this card would be destroyed, it will not be destroyed, which is definitely better protection than Archetype in my opinion, because Archetype cannot be destroyed by battle only and needs other ways to support it to make sure that it cannot be destroyed by card effects as well, and also because its base attack is 0, so you still take damage unless you use different dimension fusion, for example. And essentially the no destruction effect is essentially a reference of it being 3 Sacred Beasts, so you need to attack all 3 of them to actually destroy it. In which the second effect is that 3 times per turn and once per chain, quick effect, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and negate its effect into the end turn, and then you get life points equal to half its attack. This is actually a reference on the Sacred Beast draining dual monster energy and giving its owner the life force. And I just love the part where you could literally just negate 3 effects in one turn, hence the 3 Sacred Beasts all together in one card. And of course just the references of the anime. Although still kind of unfortunate for a big bad boss monster that is essentially 3 monsters into one, and unfortunately could still get its effects negated as effects can still target it, and it just cannot be destroyed so stuff can still banish it. But otherwise still a pretty cool card. And then here's the overframer version, which definitely looks awesome. Just kind of wish that they did this for the individual Sacred Beasts as well, because those are also the big boss monsters. And now to a remake of the continuous spell Fallen Paradise of Sacred Beasts, which the first effect is up to 3 times per turn. You can send 3 other cards with the same card type, monster, spells, or trap, from your hand and or field to the graveyard, then special summon 1 Sacred Beast monster from your hand, deck, graveyard, and or banishment to your field, and if you do, it is unaffected by your opponent's spells or traps. So like I said, you're going to need to summon those Sacred Beasts through other means, and this is definitely one of them. And essentially this is actually the main one that you're going to be using to summon your Sacred Beast, as this one definitely represents the summoning condition. In which the second effect is that if you control Sacred Beast monster that is level 10, you draw 2 cards, which is definitely the reference of the original Fallen Paradise where you control one of the Sacred Beasts, you draw 2 cards, but this time it actually gives them the summoning condition rather than giving them protection. Although the anime one never really gave them protection, it's just the draw 2. But regardless, this is going to be mandatory for you to run, as this is your main way to summon your Sacred Beasts. In which we go to Unleashing the Sacred Beast, which actually shows the original versions of the anime artwork. Pretty cool reference right there, and it's a normal spell, with each effect being hard once per turn. The first one being add 3 Sacred Beast monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, and then discard 2 cards. The fact that it's just Sacred Beast in name and not restricted to the level 10 is definitely huge, because you could always add those support monsters and send the other 2 to the graveyard, and then of course summon those monsters back. Even though the search 3 part is just a reference on each Sacred Beast, but considering that they have the archetype name with it, that's not going to matter. You could just put the support stuff as well. In which the second effect is that if this card is the graveyard except during the turn it was 100% there, you can banish it and add one Pyro, Thunder, or Fiend monster that is level 10 and that cannot be normal summon or set and put it to your hand. Basically, second effect just lets you recycle one of your Sacred Beast monsters that are the big boss monsters, in which this case they also have their hand effects as well, so that's actually pretty nice for more further searching. Especially since you could always add back the Hamon to add another copy of this card and then just play another copy just so you could do the 3 search and discard 2 again. So definitely one of the most insane consistency cards I've seen. And then we got the continuous spell Skyfire of the Sacred Beast, which is definitely a reference to Hamon, obviously, with each effect being a hard once per turn. The first one being, during the main phase, you can search for 2 copies of itself from your hand, deck, or graveyard and put them face up on your field. And then you can reveal 1 level 10 Sacred Beast from your hand and then place 1 Fallen Paradise of Sacred Beast to your field zone. Another consistency card to basically set you up. Not only that it could set up its condition for your Fallen Paradise, but it also literally adds the Fallen Paradise, which in turn having 3 copies of these face up and now having a Fallen Paradise equals 1 Sacred Beast. And it's also nice that it could be hand, deck, or graveyard as well, especially with the second effect where during your opponent's end phase, if this card's in the graveyard, you can add this back to hand, which will just let you reset again next turn, as if you have the other 2 copies in the graveyard, you could just reset them back on your board, and thus Fallen Paradise could send them all back to the graveyard to summon back another Sacred Beast. Kind of an idea of a resurrection loop here, and of course it's a mandatory 3-up as you need all 3 copies for this to function. And now we go to the traps, the first one being Destruction Chant of the Sacred Beast, which is a normal trap, and each effect is a hard once per turn. The first one being special summon a Sacred Beast monster from your hand or graveyard in defense. Then, if you control at least 2 level 10 monsters that are Sacred Beasts, you can negate 1 face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. Keep in mind this does not target, but essentially the idea here is that their divine presence is actually scaring the monster, thus destroying it. And I also love the fact that it just gives a resurrection option here, especially when we're talking about 40,000 point monsters. But anyway, to the second effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard and then fusion summon 1 Phantom Fusion monster from your extra deck by using materials from your hand and or field to the graveyard. So basically it's also your fusion card as well, and the nice part is that you can also use your hand as material just in case that they become bricks in your hand. And also keep in mind, Uriah could also search for this as well, so essentially it's a searchable fusion card. But overall not the craziest thing, but it is actually a pretty cool card just to disrupt your opponent's plays. And finally, Divine Abyss of the Sacred Beast, which is a continuous trap, and its first and third effect are both hard once per turn, the first one being, during the main phase, you can place 2 copies of itself from your hand, deck, or graveyard to face up to your field. This is essentially to set up for Uriah, obviously, especially using Fallen Paradise to send these 3 copies to the graveyard. And speaking of sending to the graveyard, the second effect is that you can send 3 copies of this card to the graveyard, include itself, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and change it to face-down defense position, which is a nice way to counter some of your opponent's effects, especially to make your opponent cannot activate any effects. And for Uriah's case, even more attack, in which the third effect is that during your opponent's end phase, while this card's in the graveyard, you can put this to the bottom deck. I kinda don't like that the spell can literally put itself back to hand, while the trap has to be put back to the bottom deck. I mean, yeah, it is very helpful for Uriah to get attack, and it also sets you up for Uriah, and in a way it could also disrupt some annoying effects on your opponent, but the return part is kind of really iffy to me, to the fact that I just don't like the part where you have to literally put it to the bottom deck. Although there is ways to research it back, so I'm not saying it's too bad, but it's just kind of annoying when you could actually see the other ones go back to hand rather than bottom deck. And so that's it for the new Sacred Beast archetype with a retrain of the Sacred Beast monsters. What do you guys think of it? Overall, it's very awesome, and I was not expecting this at all. Another reimagine of a series of cards turning into a full-on archetype, and I was not expecting a main villain that only dueled once to actually get his cards retrained here. Because usually when it came to Sacred Beast cards and its support, it's more Yubel related, as you can tell with those old Sacred Beast cards, 0 attack and defense, which is a Yubel theme, and a lot more Phantom cards. But here, a full-on reimagining of a series turned into a full-on archetype was not what I was expecting when it comes to Sacred Beast, which kind of makes me have hope for the Egyptian gods as well, as the Sacred Beast is of course based on the Egyptian gods. But overall pretty awesome, although it might be very unfortunate that you can't play the old Yubel stuff of the Sacred Beast with this deck. Maybe few cards might work, but considering that they are not exact name of the original 3 kind of makes it not work with the Yubel stuff. Although one thing I do hope is that we do get a new version of Armor Tile even though Kagemaru never summoned it, because I think that would be awesome as well. But on that, that's it for this, and see you next time.